I took all of my skills that I had learned over the past decade and just created a little business out of it. So just created a name, a logo, used my LinkedIn network, and then I turned my employer into my first client.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of I Fired Myself. My name is Scott Armstrong, and I'm always grateful to be here with you guys. And I got another fantastic episode here for you today. Super inspiring story. My guest, Ashlee Stoeppler, came from the corporate world as a corporate recruiter and then pivoted and took those skills, created her own offer, created her own business. And you'll see in the episode, she made her boss, her employer, who denied her a raise, she made them her first client. And that is the most epic success story I may have heard so far on this show. So tune in, enjoy the episode. It's such a great episode. If you guys want to learn more about how to become an entrepreneur, we have a school community called How to Become an Entrepreneur. You'll find a link to that in the episode description. And it's packed with all kinds of courses and modules, awesome mindset program, and then also into action. It's the entrepreneur roadmap, how to actually get into action to exit the 9-to-5 and build your entrepreneurial skills. Got all kinds of awesome stuff coming your way. So go click the link below. It's got a free 7-day trial. So go check that out. And we got weekly Zoom calls. Okay. So at least hop in on one of the Zoom calls, introduce yourself to the community, and get going. So, all right, guys, thank you so much, and enjoy the show. All right, everybody, welcome back to I Fired Myself. My name is Scott Armstrong. I'm super excited to be here today. This is going to be a powerful story, and it's exactly what we've been talking about. Like, if you guys have been in the school community and you took the mindset course, or if it's something you plan on doing, which I encourage, one of the big things we talk about when you're still in the 9-to-5, you're trying to glean what skills, what talents you have, and looking for areas that you can apply those to starting your own business. And I have here Ashlee Stoeppler from Ashlee Stoeppler Media. And hey, Ashlee, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Really grateful that you're here. And Ashlee is the example of that. And so I really wanted to highlight her story and bring her on for a conversation because it's just super duper valuable. So I guess let's just take it back to the beginning. I've known you for a couple years now, and I've seen your journey from being in the 9-to-5 and just not being very satisfied in a lot of different ways. Like, you know, how the 9-to-5 translated into stress at home, and it just like wasn't an ideal living situation and all these different things. And then you made a few fundamental changes and it changed everything. And you really took ownership of your life, and you took your skills that you learned on the job and took those into starting your own business and having success. And that has then translated into an amazing living situation for your whole family. So it's just like such a fantastic, perfect example of what we're trying to zero in on with the show, with the community, and hopefully people get some inspiration for it. So I guess let's just start back, paint a picture. Well, first of all, tell us what Ashlee Stoeppler Media is, and then we'll kind of back engineer it from there.
Yeah, so Ashlee Stoeppler Media is exactly what you were talking about. I took all of my skills that I had learned over the past decade and just created a little business out of it. So just created a name, a logo, used my LinkedIn network, and then I turned my employer into my first client.
Boom.
Yeah,
That's it. That's it right there. Okay, so what is it? What is your service? What is your offer? What service do you provide?
Yeah, so social media management, but then I do resume writing. I do LinkedIn profile optimization. I do help my mom occasionally here and there with some website backend stuff with blogs and whatnot. But my background is in recruiting, specifically in the telecom industry. So I had built my network on LinkedIn and then just kind of used word of mouth to find social media clients, plus my current employer. And then it was all word of mouth locally as well. So how I gain clients that way. But then I also, as a recruiter, I was doing resumes. I was searching people's LinkedIn. I knew what to search on the back end. So I was looking for those keywords to be on resumes. So when I do resumes, I have a very specific kind of way I target the resumes to be, one, kind of shorter to catch attention, and then two, to include those keywords that I learned over my recruiting career, because that's what we're looking for. So putting them on there. And then, yeah, a business bloomed out of it. I do resumes here and there. I do LinkedIn profile optimizations here and there. And then I've got like my core social media clients currently.
That's amazing. See, you guys, well, we're going to get into it. I'm very excited. So it's kind of funny. I was within the last year, I can't even remember what it was for. I've seen a couple postings for different it was like media companies looking for talent, right? And they said apply with your CV here, and I'm like, CV, what the heck is that? I had to look it up, and I'm like, oh, it's just a fancy word for a resume. And I'm
Yeah.
like, and then I've seen that pop up a few times since then. I'm like, so now it's like people keep saying the CV, and the joke I made was like, I've been self-employed for so long, like they've changed the name of what resumes are, and I didn't even notice. So it's kind of funny. I don't know if it's always been that way, but I've never seen CV up until recently, and so it's like it's just kind of
Yeah, that's more of a term that I feel like it's a little older, but it's
okay.
used in like other countries more commonly than
Oh,
it would be here. So yeah, maybe it's just a blend.
maybe it's just a blend, but I'm like that. It made me feel good that it's kind of like, when you get sober, because I've been sober for almost 10 years now, and it's like there's new drugs out there that I never got to try, and it's like
Yeah.
that you're successful in your recovery when there's new drugs. And I've talked to, people that have been sober for like 30 years, and they're like, yeah, dude, there's all the ecstasy and stuff. Like that was way, wasn't around when I got sober. So there's that idea of like once you've crossed over into doing entrepreneurship for so long, it's like new things in the working world come up. It's like, I don't have to worry about that. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of funny. But
That's amazing. That's amazing that it's been that long. I just started in August, so and I can never imagine going back.
I
I would,
know
yeah.
once you pull the trigger on it, it's it really is impossible to go back. And it's, I've had opportunities to go like work for different companies as like a contractor, basically. Like sure, like as a contractor building, what you would imagine like a contract type of employment situation is. But then like with media companies, like it's just like, you're coming on as like on a contractor basis, and you're not like an employee. I'm kind of weary of that these days. I'm like, you're not trying to hire me. I ain't filling out no W-2s. Like you better get out of here with that. But being a contractor, I think is a good position to be in. But anyway, so well, okay, so let's go back. So describe what your life was like, both in a work sense and then like your personal life, maybe a year and a half ago when you were, doing the 8 to 5, 9 to 5 type of deal.
Yeah, it was wildly different. And it's weird to think I have moved and kind of created my new situation. It'll be a year in May. But yeah, a year and a half ago, I was living in the same house I had lived in with my two kids for almost 7 years. But the past like 3 or 4 years, we had slowly been getting different symptoms and getting sick. Turns out it was mold just all throughout the house. So we're dealing with that situation. I was working a job that I was just comfortable in, and it was paying the bills. It was providing like healthcare benefits for me and my kiddos. So was just, yeah, I got trapped in the 8 to 5 life that way because I needed set hours for daycare. I needed insurance benefits. I needed a certain paycheck and I need certain hours. So yeah, was doing that with recruiting, and eventually I worked from home. I kind of took advantage of the COVID situation and left my other employer doing the exact same thing, the recruiting and the social media marketing piece all into one role. And then I moved just to a remote role. So I had already gotten home. So I was kind of taking little baby steps to get to where I wanted. So once we got sick, and just before we got sick as well, I think it was like December. I met you earlier that year. So it was later that year. That I just like got this overwhelming feeling to like get out of the house and completely change our lives. I was like, I want to live and work on a farm. I don't care what the living situation is, whether it's a camper, a smaller house, whatever. So I went down this journey of trying to lower my cost of living to get out because I was kind of stuck. I was used to paying the rent, and my landlord, she was a private landlord. She was great. She kept my rent lower. Um, Throughout all the prices increasing in Nashville. So I knew I had to lower my just monthly income. So I paid off all the bills I could. And then I saved some money and just overall lowered my expenses when I moved to the farm that I'm on now. And then yeah. And then now we're in a farm, and now I have the option to finally quit my job. And now it's to figure out how and like what I want to do. Do I want to do, I thought about virtual assistant, because I do have an admin background as well, but to really just like cut ties. And then I had to think about things like, okay, what are we going to do for health insurance? What are we going to do for this? So after I figured out all these little pieces, I finally quit my job. I actually had a little situation happen that was just kind of pushing me out the door anyways, I felt like. So it was just a perfect timing. I didn't want to burn any bridges or anything. So yeah, once I got my first client, and then a local person, I had a friend, and then a LinkedIn connection. So yeah, once I started getting the flow of things, and then I kind of fumbled my way through it. So I had only ever done social media for a company before, mostly through LinkedIn, but Facebook as well, a little bit of Instagram, but I had never ran it for different types of businesses. So I just completely learned as I went. Like I got a scheduling platform, researched that, scheduled like or figured out how to get into everybody's profiles without getting their personal information, just all of these things. So once I figured that out, I started expanding a little bit. And then eventually started a rabbitry. So we now breed Holland Lob rabbits as well, which is another source of income. But I'm also now that I have the time, I'm not working my 8 to 5 job just to barely pay the bills. And then now I've started this other income of different ways of making money online. So affiliate marketing, digital products. So now I'm building that piece as well. So I'm definitely still in the thick of it of just starting out. Like I said, I started in August is when I left my job and started day one of like working for myself. But I wouldn't change a thing. I'm still in the hard moments and not where I want to be, but on my way there. So but it's just been so cool to be able to do that and hopefully get to a point of like you said, years down the road, like not even up to date with like resumes and things. So I just can't wait to see what else is to come in this self-employment journey.
Yeah, that's just so incredible. And like I said, in the community, we're talking about these exact things. The idea of I think a lot of people have this idea that when you go to become a entrepreneur or business owner, it's like you're just quitting and it's like I'm going to quit my job and go start a business. It's like no,
Mhm.
I mean maybe some people will have success with that, just completely jumping out with no parachute. Maybe there's some personality types that are like that. But I think that of course the responsible way to do it is to build something
Mhm.
sustainable and have like what we talk about in the school community is like validating your offer with the market prior to exiting your job. So you want to make you come up with an idea and you test it out with the market. You basically see, hey, is this something that somebody will give me money for? Now, in your situation, you were taking your skills that you were doing on the job and then trying to find your own client base. So you already have basically a validated offer. You know that this is a service that people will pay money for. And so then it's just a matter of client or customer acquisition. And so that's a great way to do it. And so um, but then we also talk about so what are the practical first steps towards doing that? And you need to have a runway. You need to have like a way to make the transition in a way that kind of gives you a little bit of safety net. And part of that is cutting expenses. So you talked about how you changed your living situation. What were some other things that you did to kind of like reduce the amount of or just tell us your thought process or just like everything that went into cutting your costs and like what like how deliberate were you with that in anticipation of no longer having a steady paycheck? Just kind of focus on that a little bit.
Yeah, I guess without saying numbers, I dropped my income a little less than half that I was making. So I had to get down. That was my goal. So I just paid off things that, maybe I had a little bit up to like 6 months of still paying on, paid off those, and then found a great living situation where I wasn't paying this high cost rent. That was a big one. That was my big ticket item that I had to figure out ASAP because the rent in my old spot was killing me. And yeah, so just kind of taking those steps to, sorry, repeat the question again.
Yeah,
What did
it's
you
just
say?
it's just your approach to
Oh, God.
cutting
Yeah.
expenses and like what your mindset was around that because
Oh,
um
mindset. That's where I wanted to
you know
go.
really
Oh,
yeah
yeah.
because it's like that's part of the sacrifice we have to make, especially in the initial first steps. It's like we have to figure out because we're not going to be able to replace our income completely. So really the formula is we have to cut our expenses to kind of reduce our cost of living to go from like, okay, I'm used to being at a state of like luxury, almost comfort. But in order to make that journey, in most cases, we have to kind of just lower our comfort level a little bit and just figure out how we can get by with the bare minimum. And so I was just curious about your mindset around that whole portion of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mindset is where I was going. So yeah, just over and I had to make little changes too, like things that had absolutely nothing to do with my job. Like moving my body more, working on a farm, learning these skills, like constantly learning new things. And thankfully I got to do that here on the farm. But just yeah, really cutting back and like looking like, okay, what do we need? And in my situation, I was also downsizing where I live. So I have so many things in storage I haven't even thought about in months. So really just like cutting back overall in my space, in my home, um, on my to-do list, things that like did not fulfill me. Like I had to work a job to pay the rent. That did not fulfill me. So cutting that, anything that I was spending money on that did not ultimately fulfill me, cut that as well. So really the mindset is the big piece. But also just like making other changes in your life because you're creating these new habits. So you've got to be mentally prepared and know what you need to do when you kind of feel weak in the moment and don't want to do the things that you have set out to do. Because once you're, self-employed, you wake up every day unemployed, essentially. You've got to make money for yourself. So yeah, I little things like, eating, clean and working out and making sure I have enough time in the morning and sunlight in the morning. So there's a lot of things that I changed to have the mindset that I do now to make sure I keep getting my to-do list done every single day. But yeah, mindset is a huge piece. And I feel there's more that you need to change with your mindset than that's related directly to your work as well to be successful in your work.
Yeah. Wow. I hadn't heard that before. That is a really good saying. It's like when you're self-employed, you wake up every day basically unemployed. You have to grind and hustle. And we have retain like hopefully like some monthly recurring revenue with some of our clients. Like we get, but then they call it the churn, right? Like how long are they going to stay with us? They could end their commitment at any time. And so
Yep.
having a steady pipeline of new leads or new new customers coming in, and of course when you get to the point where you're looking to scale, that's essential. But it really is true. Like you got to wake up with the mentality of like, okay, like every day you're unemployed, and what am I going to do to look for new customers, to close the customers I'm currently nurturing, or to fulfill and over deliver for the customers that I already have, right? To keep them on board. So that's a really fascinating way to put it. Um, One of the things I talk about too, or I just, you know, I say I talk about, but it's like these are just basic principles. Like one of the things is like perfectionism is something that probably a lot of us suffer from. Especially like for me, a lot of like on the one hand, there's like a creative aspect to it, and probably for you as well, where like there's creativity going into it. So I could sit here editing a video, and just one tiny little piece that's driving me crazy that nobody will ever notice, but I'll spend like 20 minutes like changing the contrast on this one part that like, okay, just move on, right? So there's perfectionism keeps us trapped, but then also just when you're starting, the idea of everything has to be perfect before you launch. You kind of touched on this a minute ago, but I think that's so important that it's just like we call it the minimum viable launch threshold. Like what is the minimum that it needs to be before I can ship it, put it out the door? It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, like we just have our minimum viable standard, and then we're gonna learn from that. We're gonna launch or we're gonna ship at a certain standard, and then the market's gonna tell us like what needs to be refined, or we're gonna fail at something, and then we're gonna use that as data as information to then pivot, change, adapt, shift whatever we need to do to then have the next iteration be even better based on that. So you talked about how like you weren't, you just rolled with it. Tell us a little bit about what your thought process was as far as like what I said, like the minimum viable standard of what you needed to execute with, and what that process has been like.
Yeah, so I'm somebody who likes a plan, but some of it I had to let go of control of that and just like roll with it and just whatever happened. I knew kind of like my first goal was, hey, I need to make this amount with my new cost of living situation once I had moved, because I was still working that job months into moving here. Like I said, I moved in May, worked that job till August, and yeah, just figuring out what I needed to do. I'm so sorry, I keep forgetting the
Oh, you're
question.
good. You're good. It's basically
One
just,
more time.
yeah, the idea of launching before it's perfect, and
Yes, launching
the
before it's
idea
perfect.
that I can imagine like it's so easy to fall into the trap of everything has to be perfect before I launch. But one of the
Mhm.
things I really try to communicate is that, and I say this a lot with podcasting too, because I've helped, I don't know, 2, 3 dozen people launch a podcast, or just consulting with them, like just having a phone call with friends who are wanting to start a podcast. And my kind of my message is always, okay, so you're not gonna be the best. You're not gonna have the fanciest mic or camera or setup or anything like all this stuff I have here. This took me 5 years to accumulate all this stuff, you know. So, but when I started, I didn't even know any of this stuff. I didn't know how to edit a video. I didn't know how to do anything. But we just started, and we started to get momentum fairly quickly back in the beginning. And so my message is always with podcasting, it's like, okay, just go, just press the record button and just go. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to lose a whole file. You're going to make all the mistakes in the world. But the most important thing is that you just start. And anything that's getting between you and the record button is standing in the way of you then learning and growing and having success. So just clear all that out of the way. Just hit record and go. And so I kind of translate that to starting a business where you have to have at least something minimally viable, but then we tend to put things in our way that keep us from executing. And so just tell us about your like what your thought process or what your minimum viable product was that you launched with, and kind of your thoughts around clearing out some of the things, the perfectionism that maybe kept you trapped. Or what did you, let's just start simply, what was your minimum viable offer that you launched with?
Yeah, it was the social media piece. And that too, just like you're editing a video, I can tweak one little thing on a font, centering it or putting it to the left. I can spend way too long on that. So definitely letting go of that piece. But just getting a really good process. Like once I had a good streamlined process, I just stuck to it. Because otherwise, yeah, I would spend extra time on those little things. So, but yeah, social media was what I started with, and I knew I had a product to get out of there. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm still in the thick of it. I'm still in the messy part of it where I am figuring things out as I go. The process is lasting a little bit longer than I'd like, but that's okay. Um, but yeah, just being able to learn and adapt and quickly Google something if I need to, because I don't know it and I mess up. I did mess up in the beginning a few times with clients, getting them onboarded. It took me a minute. By the third one, I had it down, but the first two, I kind of fumbled a few things. So,
Yep.
but being okay with that. People are people, and I think in today's world, people want more human interaction. So they're okay if you mess up. Like it's just you who's worried about the mess up and letting go of that. So but yeah, once you start, then if you stay in that mindset, then you can start other things too, and you'll get it. It's taken me, whatever it has been, 6 months. But yeah, and then just always learning.
Yep. Learning from those mistakes. Like that's the other thing too, is like the perfectionism. I think a lot of it is born out of the sense that we don't want to fail. And I think that that is paycheck mentality. That's like 9 to 5 mentality, where it's like, when we fail at a job, then it could be disastrous. We might lose our job. We might get fired, and nobody wants that. But in the entrepreneur world, it's like when we fail, that's good because that's information that we can use to then improve and make ourselves even better. And so the idea of just having a desire to fail as quickly as possible, because if I'm going to fail, like I know I'm going to fail for one, like there's no doubt about that. I know I'm going to mess up, or I'm going to come up with an idea and launch it and nobody wants it. And it's like, great. Now I just need to pivot to something else. I mean, that's already happened with me in my business where at first I had like one little idea of what it was going to be. And then I quickly realized, oh, actually I'd be a lot better here. And as I'm growing, I'm starting to see where my constraints are. And it's like, I would actually be better if I was kind of more over here a little bit. So, I mean, failure is like kind of a strong word, but it's like not hitting the mark maybe is another way to put it. So the perfectionism is our anticipation of failure, which keeps us trapped in inaction. So when we can just push that aside and understand and just grasp and know for a fact that we're going to fail, then good. Okay, I know that. So let me just go and fail as quickly as I possibly can, and then use that as information to improve and become even better. And it kind of sounds like, well, that's kind of what you experience a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just, yeah, being able to adapt and be okay with the failing and knowing that it is a learning process. Thankfully, I had already dealt with a lot of that in life, so I can easily adapt and adjust in business situations and building business situations as well. So, but yeah, I think that's a skill all on its own, is being comfortable with the idea of messing up, but also learning how to fix it for
Yep,
next time.
exactly. Exactly. So this is then now translated into, and I've kind of had this experience too, where it's like it kind of ripples out into other areas of my life. So now you're like living your dream. You're living on a farm. You talked about, I know, well, tell us a little bit about how, like, other aspects of your life that have kind of really improved after being on this path. Like you got your kids out of public school. Like, maybe tell us a little bit about that, because that's fascinating.
Yeah, so through the mold process, I had actually pulled my youngest son, Jameson, out of school already. I had always loved the idea of homeschooling, but I'm a single mama too. I just never thought that it would be possible. Again, fell into that 8 to 5 because that's what I knew that would work for my family at the time. But then I quickly realized like this is not aligned with my passions and just my goals in life because I do want my own homestead and land one day. I want to bring all my family on there, leave land as like, what I leave in our family and for my kids, and just pass that down with homes and gardens and all the things. So yeah, just getting to the point I'm at now, not even having, because that was the thing. I was so far out from my goal. I had to also think of like, how can I get there quicker? Because I'm very unhappy in this life. It's not fulfilling me. I was very depressed, was very anxious all the time, just like stuck in this cycle every single day of doing the same things. And then just also just barely making it by because I've got 2 kids and I had a great job. I did pretty well for myself in the telecom recruiting industry, but I've always had to pay for everything on my own. Granted, my mom is so sweet and helps me sometimes, but I have 2 children to support and consider in every decision that I make. So, but also, yeah, wanting to teach them skills. Like I want them to see their mom go after exactly what I want and not just live in this comfortable, I should say, way of life, which is actually not comfortable at all. It's just like what we grow up knowing. So, breaking free from that. And again, yeah, pulling my son out of public school, just breaking free from these systems that we have grown up knowing and just like they're just like embedding it into our brain every which way they can. Public school is a big one for me. I could do a whole
Okay.
episode just on my thoughts on public school. So,
Well,
but yeah, being able to pull my son out, and then my oldest son, he goes to a Montessori school. Love them. If I were to send my kids to a school, it would be that one. So, but yeah, we're still fumbling through homeschooling. I'm still learning as I go, not even just in my business, in homeschooling. One of the beauties of having your own business and services is not everything costs money. You can barter. So I'm actually bartering with one of Noah, my older son, one of his older teachers who was a Montessori teacher, and now she does like she's like a homeschool consultant. So she's helping me. I'm helping her get up and going on LinkedIn and helping her with her marketing strategy and all of these things, applying the skills that I have learned over the years. And in turn, I'm having somebody help me get organized with homeschooling as well. That's another point. That was another way I cut cost of living was bartering. Like I can barter like chiropractic services for social media and just different things. I've done it for food, for just anything that I would normally pay money on. I mean, you can ask. I mean, the worst they could do is say no. But yeah, being able to barter for the homeschooling piece is really going to set us up for success for long term. So yeah, just breaking free from different systems and things, is scary and it's uncomfortable. But after you've been uncomfortable long enough, you find comfort in the uncomfortability a little
yep.
bit.
That's the
And
core of entrepreneurship, is like just being like, yes, bring it on. Like, it's scary, but
yeah,
it's an adrenaline rush. It really is.
yeah. Yeah. And I would be lying if I said like I didn't have thoughts of, oh my gosh, some days are like so hard where I'd be like, my kids in public school and working a job, that I had all these benefits that I'm having to now make money for. And just being in that flow naturally, sometimes I think, wow, this would be a lot easier if I just did this. Then I'd have time to work a job, but I would be working for somebody else. I wouldn't be able to work for myself. So just reminding myself of those good moments and how good it felt when I got my first client, my second client, my third, my fourth. So just reminding myself of those. It all goes back to the mindset piece.
Yep. And when you're in a job, you're kind of limited. You're trapped. You're stuck with,
Yeah.
um like, I was on a podcast earlier today, and we talked about how, um it's just like something that was instilled in me early on with one of my mentors, Richard Grove, one of my entrepreneur mentors. Like, he really broke it down in a way that just kind of just clicked, and just basically said, like, if you're trapped in a job, then you really only have three options to make more money. It's beg your boss for more money. And maybe if you're lucky, they'll give you like an extra 25 or 50 cents an hour or something like that, right? So you can beg for more money from your current employer. You can beg for another job and go out into the market and find another job and beg somebody to hand you more money, maybe. And or you can get a second job or a third job. Those are your only options. Like if you had to make like $10,000 next month, if you're in the paycheck mentality, it's unattainable. There's no way to do that. There's no way to do that whatsoever. Now in the entrepreneur world, there is no limit. There is no upward limit to where you can go and what you can do. And it's a direct reflection of your own input, your own discipline. And like, it's really at the end of the day, business is solving problems for people. And then it's having an offer that you bring to the market. And however many times you bring your offer to the market is the amount of opportunities people have a chance to say yes to your offer, which is your income. So it's really just a matter of scaling at that point. So there is no upward limit. So getting excited about your first, second, third, fourth client, then it's like, okay, so I have like a system that I can just repeat if I want to get more business at that point. So it's fascinating to think in those terms, and it's like, I can't, like, it does feel like an easy way out. Like, I'll just go get another job. Like, I'll just go work at like Chick-fil-A or something. Like, if this doesn't work, I joke about that. I'm like, if this doesn't work out, I'll just go work at Chick-fil-A or something like that. And it's like, no, there's no way. There's no way. We're in too deep. There's no going back. There's no going back after this. And there are hard days,
Yep.
but the promise of there being a limitless future is what keeps us all going, I'd imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, towards the end where I knew at my old job that I was just like, okay, I've got to get out of here. Towards the end, like the concept of asking somebody for time off to do what I needed for my family, like blew my mind. I was like, I've been doing this for years just so naturally. And that's when I really knew. I was like, I got to go or I'm going to mouth off and, get myself in trouble and get myself fired. So that was a really wild concept once I left. And now I don't, because I'd have to work my days and my family and my life around work. Now work is fit in with all of my other things in my family and my life and the things that we want to do. And I fit work in when I have time around those things. So that's been a beautiful thing as well to give me that flexibility to just, do what I want, build the businesses I want. It's
Exactly.
exciting.
Exactly. Well, and so then just on the schooling for your kids and the ongoing education for them, you've this is now translated into more entrepreneurial ventures, and I know particularly your older son is very much already an entrepreneur. You're kind of ingraining these entrepreneurial skills and the mindset at a young age, which I think is the most critical thing possible. So tell us about your how what you're doing to help instill like entrepreneurship in your kids.
Sure. So the rabbitry that we started, that was me and Noah. We got the idea when he had a couple $100 and um our friend had gotten a rabbit and we just, I don't know, started looking into them. They were cute. But then we realized, there's a business aspect and we can have cute baby bunnies and just bunnies around all the time. So lots of benefits. But he just turned 14 a few weeks ago. He can, and thankfully at Montessori, they do teach the financial piece as well. And building businesses, they encourage entrepreneurship, whereas public school does not. They want you in that 8 to 5 corporate life. So, but yeah, he learns hard work. He goes out every single morning before school and does what we call bunny chores, scoops poop, make sure everybody's, cleaned and fed, refill food, water, hay, all of the things. And then there's, monthly and ongoing responsibilities too. But now we have just had our first 2 litters of bunnies and some of them are leaving home this week. And
Oh,
yeah,
that is
I'm
tough.
gonna, I'm trying to accept it. I know it's happening as soon as tomorrow and then Thursday. But to see
Yeah.
that journey and to know that there are hard parts of business, like, you could have a baby bunny, die or get sick or a mom reject the baby. There's all these things that can translate into real life as well. But yeah, teaching the business side of things and learning about taxes and learning about, setting up email templates when somebody purchases something from you or adopts a rabbit from you, whatever it is. So just learning all these processes. That's another thing, I want my kids to see me do what I want, but I also want them to see me do it like on my own and be able to have the freedom and the flexibility that they see. Like I can show up to every school event. I can show up to every soccer event. I can show up to every appointment. I was doing all those things with a corporate job anyways, but now I can do it at the level that I want. Now Noah's in a little bit of travel. He's in a more competitive soccer league, but we do typically travel a few times a year as well. Could have not done that before because I would have had to ask for time off. That crazy concept. So, um, but yeah, just getting to the point of doing what I want and then my kids seeing that and knowing that then they can teach their kids if they decide to have kids one day. And just that trickles down, just like I want to own land one day and pass that down to my family and give them this land and these houses, just also passing down those skills. And that was a big thing for me too, wanting to move to a farm. I don't know, just along my path, I realized like, wow, in 2 generations, we learned all of these self-sustainable skills. Like the fact that I don't know, one day it hit me. I was like, I don't know how to grow food from a seed. Like that just trips me out. Like I don't know. And then just all the pieces and all the rabbit holes I went down from there. So just slowly, yeah, breaking free from these systems, but also just the way that I grew up and these experiences that shaped me and having to undo a lot of things that I've learned and teach myself new things and new ways of thinking. But yeah, having two people always watching you and observing how you handle situations and what you do for yourself and, getting out of depression, doing things that make you happy every single day. Like I'm teaching, it's not just affecting my life, it's affecting theirs and their future and the future kids and grandkids and all of the things.
Yeah, so this is just I mean, yeah, I haven't even touched on that yet, but it's like the intergenerational piece of it where being your own boss, like that's what we want to role model for the next generations. Like we want to help kids understand that like there is other options outside of going to college and doing the 9 to 5. Like at this point, like with the absolute the readily available amount of information out there, especially like if these AI tools continue to progress, like it's almost like that
Mhm.
scene in the Matrix where he just like plugs his brain in and it's like, oh, I know jujitsu. It's like we don't need you don't need to go into like $200,000 of debt to learn like these high level skills. Like a lot of it, like I think the college system is kind of on its way out at this point with the way that education is going to be just more rapidly available for everybody. And so teaching kids that you can go out and make your way in the world and make, tons of money and wealth and assets by just circumventing that whole situation right there. Like that's powerful that you're helping instill that to your kids and hopefully they'll pass it on too. Um, yeah, that's wild. So I want to kind of just back up a little bit and talk a little bit more about your exit from your actual previous job. And there's a really huge payoff in all this, and this is probably going to be the biggest takeaway from this whole episode. So describe what it was like leading up to like what was your thought process in when you're going to exit your job. So was there like, did you set a specific date or did you have a specific either financial goal or did you say, okay, as soon as I get this amount of clients, what was your threshold for putting in your notice? Like what did you decided was the thing that was going to be the go trigger for exiting your job?
Yeah, so I made a plan specifically to exit. So I saved up 2 months of expenses. And I put in my 2 week notice. I did set a date and I did my date strategic because I had 100% paid health insurance for me and then I just paid for my kids to be on as well. But if you work a little bit into the month, even 1 or 2 days, you have benefits for that entire month. So I started my business on August 4th, so just into the new month. And I timed it where I ended on the last Friday of the month, but it fell into the new month a little bit as well. So I was able to get those health insurance. So once I had that covered, that gave me another month to think about that. Um, and then, yeah, I was very anxious. And then I knew it would be hard, but you can know something's hard, but then until you're in the thick of it and you feel it and you're going through it, you don't know how hard. But the first 2 days that I was self-employed, I laid in bed so much. I just had to take some time off from this fast-paced, like cutthroat way of living I had been in for. I mean, I entered when I had Noah, so in 2012. Later that year was when I went into the 8 to 5 life because I had a kid at that point. So But yeah, once I got my laying out of the way and just relaxing, because I had not done that in so long. Because then I knew I didn't have time to relax going into building businesses, and not only building one business, like I wanted to tackle the social media piece. That took a few months to get up and going and make sure like I had everybody's, brand, personality, and tone of voice and all these things down and to where I felt comfortable to, okay, now I can shift, like knock out. Because the beautiful thing about social media is I can plan out my clients' content for a while. So then if I plan out a month or 2 months in advance, I've got a month or two straight to focus on building out the next business. So that's what I'm doing now is building out the affiliate marketing piece, working on finding ways to make money through social media online, TikTok in particular. The bunny business has been doing really well. And so
Oh, that's what I was
finding,
going to zero in on. Yeah, yeah. So you guys out there, if you there'll be links below to all of
yeah,
Ashlee's social medias. Like, go give her a follow if you guys want to see how it's done. Because when she was explaining the bunny business, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. You'll make a few, like maybe a couple $100 here and there. But what I didn't realize, and this is kind of like part of your plan all along, from what you said, is like this is like social media gold. Having this a bunny farm, and so like your posts are getting like massive engagement, and I'm like, oh, she figured out how to hack the matrix. You get little bunnies, and then you just get cute little videos of bunnies, and then you're telling me how you have these different strategies, testing out like what
mhm,
people respond to, and then just so you're playing the social media game with your
sure
bunny farm.
am.
And
I
so
sure
that
am.
and that is going to be probably a huge lucrative business in and of itself, is just the social media portion of that. And so that blew me
Mhm.
away. I didn't really see the full picture until I started seeing your post, and I was like, and you're like 100,000 views there, like whatever, like like hundreds of thousands of views, and I'm like, oh, now I see what she's doing. Genius. So yeah, that's awesome. So if you guys want to see how it's done, go give her a follow. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, who doesn't love a baby bunny? I definitely knew what I was doing with that. That's why I am focusing on that social media channel first, and then will come mine with the things that I want to do aside from the rabbitry. But the rabbitry also flows with what I want to do for my own social media. So I've been, yeah, doing social media for others. Now I'm trying to focus on my own social media and build income streams through that as well. But yeah, the bunnies are great and I can make content. I can make money through making content through affiliate marketing with products, and hang out with baby bunnies all day. It's what makes me so happy. I
That
mean,
see,
and then
that is
it's wonderful. And then just yeah, not having a boss to answer to. I can be outside at all different times throughout the day and cuddle the bunnies, check on them, take care of them. And I'm also teaching those skills too. There's a lot in taking care of animals that you learn. That Nashville ice storm, I was outside taking care of animals while all the trees and the ice were falling, and it was crazy. So there is a lot of hard work involved too. But my ideal day is just sitting outside with those bunnies and yeah, just sitting in the sun with them. And that's awesome. And that's amazing that I can do that. And I'm finding a way to do exactly what I want to do, even as just, yeah, sitting outside with bunnies all day. And I'm finding a way to make money off of that.
exactly.
It's
That's amazing.
exciting.
That
It's
is so
exciting.
cool. I just love that so much. Okay, but anyway, so we're back what I was talking about the you exiting your business. So you had a strategy, you had a plan, you had a deadline, you had a very strategic exit, all that stuff. Now, how many did you have? Tell me about like what you had lined up. So did you how many clients did you have already when you made your
I
way?
have one. Yeah, my employer was my first
Okay,
client. So
okay. So that's what I wanted to zero in on. I was doing this big grand build up because to me, that is the coolest thing about like, well, one of many cool things, but to me, it kind of is like the coolest thing about your story because it's so emblematic. And I hope that people listening hear this as just like a huge piece of motivation where it's like, this is probably going to be like the title to the episode of like, my first client was my 9 to 5 boss. Like that is the most baddest ass thing imaginable. So what did that look like? So I'm very curious. Like did they know that you were exiting the company? What did that look like? Like what? Because we talk about in the course like how to kind of build your business off to the side so your employer doesn't get any signals that you're building something. But so how to do that strategically. But what did that look like when you made your transition? And then how did you onboard your employer as your first client? Tell us the whole story.
Yeah, so they obviously did not know that I was leaving up until I gave my 2 week notice. I think that there are some things that happened leading up to that. I had actually asked for a raise and did not get it, even though I did the things that were said
And you were doing the
needed to be
job of like
done
two different
for raise.
full-time
Yeah.
employees. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. But so there may be have been some hints, but no, I didn't. And I was betting on that they were going to take my offer to just be a social media consultant, basically, because they're also not paying for, like I wrote out all of the money values with it as well. But there's, they didn't have to pay for my insurance. They were paying 100% of my insurance. So they saved money in the end, and then it made me enough money. I had actually only had one client when I left. I was also getting um, some money, a little bit for one of my kiddos, and I was incorporating that into my weekly income as well. And then so I just knew word of mouth, I'm just gonna go for it. And I just prayed a lot, and I knew that I could find business. So really, I took a chance there.
Sure.
But it was a chance of believing in myself, and I believe in myself. So I
Yeah.
went for it. And then actually, when I stopped, that money that was coming in for one of my kiddos regularly got shut off. That's a whole other
Okay.
story. But I
Yeah.
didn't have that source of income, so immediately dropped income that I was, incorporating to be able to leave. But by then, was already in 3 discussions with people that were interested in social media, through word of mouth. I did exactly what, I said I would do. I, took advantage of my large LinkedIn network and, really networked there. I had people locally. And then, yeah, my mom actually was speaking to somebody at one of her appointments, and, started a relationship that way. So it just happened. A lot of prayer and the Lord just looking out for me and me going down the path that I was meant to go down, even though it was really, really bumpy at first. But yeah, and then just kind of, yeah, throwing myself out there to figure it out once I did that. And then, of course, I was also getting resumes and LinkedIn. So even though that's not like a substantial amount of money, I'm still getting that, here and there throughout the process. So that helped when I lost some of the money in the beginning. And then I had also put Jameson in a homeschool co-op. So I had to factor that new cost in, which he now has left. So I got that money back. So yeah, just, I mean, constantly. I was redoing my monthly budget every single month for like the first few months, and just seeing like where can I pull money from here. And, if I did not have an emergency fund. So, if something happened, like figuring out how to shift, yeah, I definitely took some chances in the beginning, but I think that's what working for yourself and trying new things is all about, is taking that leap of faith. And the cool thing is you're taking that leap of faith on yourself. Um, and I think that if you trust in the Lord, or whatever your beliefs are, but I think if you trust in the Lord, that He will have your back, and just trust that however it happens, because like I said, it was a bumpy ride, and I just had to kind of ride that wave through where I am now. But I'm so happy now. And yeah, just got to embrace the chaos that comes with it.
That's awesome. So tell me what did that meeting, what was that meeting like with your employer where you pitched them your offer? Like what was your mindset going into it? Did you have an offer prepackaged ready to go? And what was their response? Were they taken aback? Were they surprised? Did you do that in the same meeting that you gave your notice in? Like tell us like the actual nuts and bolts of that conversation.
Yeah, so with the meeting, it was just a call to follow up on something. But I knew leading up to this, I was like, this is my time, because I'm speaking with one person. There was a recruiting lead, and then I had the president of the company. So I kind of had two bosses. But speaking with one, I knew I was going to propose, but I had a package written out because I knew exactly what they were going to ask for. So I had that all written out already. I actually had 3 packages that I was going to propose, strategically put the price point in the middle of what I wanted, and then just like
That's what we teach,
I
the
was,
three-tier offer. The
yeah,
three-tier
I
offer.
was I was very strategic in that too. But then the first person I spoke with seemed very open to it. And yes, I kind of, there's, without saying, a lot, because like I said, they are a client and I don't want to burn bridges, but we did have a little kind of falling out towards the end, and I was kind of getting towards putting in a notice, but nobody had ever said anything. So I wouldn't say I formally put in my notice, But I definitely explained on the call, like, hey, I don't know how I could work here anymore with my life and the way it's going. Um, and yeah, I took a chance. I believed that they liked what I was doing enough to have me stay on with just that piece and still, because they knew I had moved, they knew I went through the mold, they knew all of these things. And they were good to me. And like I said, I don't burn bridges when I go,
Yeah.
no matter what happens with somewhere, because you never know, like the connection that can happen later. So but it was good conversations from then on. That person then took it to the president. I'm sure they talked and talked through things with, HR and cost and just verified everything I kind of put in there. And then yeah, already had the social media agreement written out too, just because I knew, like, if this is my time, it's going to happen right now. And I know it. I just took a chance and I knew what was going to happen. So that process all happened within like a week of me saying, I've got to move on. Here's my proposal. And then to them saying, okay, let's sign the agreement. And then here's your start date of August 4th.
Amazing.
In
So
my new role.
basically, instead of your end date at your former employer, you had a new start date for a new role.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so amazing. Ah,
Yeah.
that is so cool. So, I mean, yeah, like I talk about it in the course, like the idea being like when you're in your 9 to 5, when you're in your job, look for problems, look for things that aren't being executed properly, or look for ways that you've already solved a problem. Maybe there's a way to systematize that and have that be your new business. And then based on like what you did, your current employer could become your first client or it could become your biggest client. Because if you solve a problem for them and then you don't just keep it internal and they give you a nice attaboy and pat you on the back and say, now get back to work, you can
Mhm.
leverage that solution that you provided for that company into an actual business that now all of a sudden you actually get the leverage and you're on the upper hand now where they become your client. That is like
Mhm.
the most like literally boss move. That is a boss move
Mhm.
right there. It cannot be understated enough of taking your employer. You turn the tables. I mean, this is the core of entrepreneurship where it's like you're out there with your little bowl, like, oh, please, sir, may I have another? Like, please. And they're like, no. Like literally. And nothing against them. You know what I mean? They're clients. We're not saying it, but that's just the paycheck life. You're like to your boss in general. I'm not even talking about them. I'm just saying like, please, sir, may I have another? And
Mhm.
and they're like, no, get out and get back to work, peasant. You're lucky we even give you anything, right? And then switching the tables to where they're like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And now it's like, yeah, I'm just in general, not just in general. If you can find a way to solve their problems, systematize that, make that into a business, create an offer, and turn your former employer into a client, that's that's it right there. That is like the coolest thing in the world. And that's the main reason why I wanted to bring you on, and then
Mhm.
since your journey has unfolded the way it has, it's just so unbelievable. Like you are doing it 100% right. And the path that you're on, it well, I hope you do I mean, it sounds like you do, but you take a step back and you look at the big picture because it's like as an entrepreneur, I know the day-to-day grind, sometimes it's kind of hard to see, to take a step back and see the progress I've made or the journey and how much I've been able to accomplish. Because in my mind, I have to be hard on myself. I'm very hard on myself. It's like it's not good enough. We have to keep going. We have to keep pushing. We need to hit this benchmark or this milestone or these goals, and I'm always pushing myself every day to hit those. But then at the same time, you can take a step back and be like, whoa, this is unbelievable what I've accomplished. And so I hope you see that out of all the people I've talked to so far on this show, that is the coolest thing I've heard so far. And I've talked to a lot of like, successful business owners, but that right there is the coolest thing I think I've heard so far on the show is that like turning your client or turning your employer, your boss that told you no, we're not going to give you more money into a client that
Mhm.
allowed you to then have freedom. Coolest thing I think I've probably heard so far. So
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. And yeah, it was a cool process. And yeah, I do still wake up some days and I'm like, wow, this is my life. It still blows my own mind and I'm living it every single day. But I think that's just so cool. And I'm just really, being able to be proud of yourself and like celebrate those small wins, big wins, getting over a mess up and learning how to fix it the next time, just like celebrating all of those moments. It doesn't need to be a big celebration. It could just be you just telling yourself you're proud of yourself. And then setting new goals and just always, yeah, always sharpening your mind through lifestyle habit changes. And I mean, there's just so much that fed into everything I did. But now I'm still in the thick of it. I'm still, struggling some days. I'm having hard days, but I'm doing it. And that's the thing. Just like you said, just hit record. You just got to do it. And if things are meant to happen, the path that you're going down, it'll happen.
Exactly. And so I just want to affirm that and just say like just the consistency and the discipline will pay
Mhm.
off.
Yep.
The path that you're on, it's like almost no way that you can't succeed. It's just a matter of time and putting the pieces together and just continuing and building momentum because you have momentum and you know, it's just you're doing a great job, and I know you're gonna have lots and lots of success. Everything that you're building, I'm kind of in the same boat where it's like I have all these things that are kind of building, and it's a lot of seeds have been planted, a lot of
Mhm.
germination, a lot of little sprouts happening, and the fruit is coming, and
Oh
so
yeah.
and I just love being in this space and just hearing everybody's stories. It's just like okay, I keep meeting all these people. I'll talk to you about this offline, but I've been going to a lot of these
Mhm.
networking events around town. Whew, you got to get involved with these. They're freaking awesome, dude.
I haven't been to one. I'll
Okay,
have to.
I'll tell you about it offline,
Okay.
but yeah, it's been game changing. I keep meeting all these people that are that were where I am, and now they're running like big marketing agencies and stuff like that. And the one guy's like, yeah, I started off as like a videographer, just myself and a camera doing all the editing, and now he has like multiple employees running a big like marketing agency. I'm like, okay, all right, here we go. Anyway, I know you have farm chores to do. Ashley, this is so awesome. I'm feeling really fired up right now. Tell all the people how they can follow, support you, follow your journey, learn more, or anything else you want to shout out.
Sure. Right now I'm just really pushing the bunny socials. So even if you have no interest in adopting a baby bunny and you just want to see cute bunnies, it's Ear-Resistible, like EAR Resistible Rabbits is the name on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram. I will be building my own social media, and if you follow there, you will find me once I get it up and going. But I am focused on the bunny business now. So yeah, if you want to follow along or just see cute bunnies, you can give us a follow there.
Awesome. Well, Ashley, thank you so much. Keep me posted. We'll have you back and you can give us the audience an update because I'm sure they'll want to hear how it's going. That's the other cool thing about this show. It's like I'm checking in at people at a certain point in their journey. People are going to want to hear the update. So any successes you have, be sure to let me know and we'll just get to keep trudging along here. So thank you, Ashley, so much. And once again, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you click the school community below. It's free. Get in there, take the mindset course, and get your own entrepreneurial journey going. And maybe someday you can make your boss your client. So, all right, next time, I'll see you next time. Peace.